There's a single-player RPG launching in March this year that quietly might be one of the most ambitious releases of the year, and it's called Crimson Desert. Developed by Pearl Abyss, and the more we see of it, the more interesting it becomes. And this isn't just another open-world fantasy title here. This looks like a system-heavy, combat-driven, narrative-focused experience built around leadership, revenge, and survival in a fractured world. And today I want to break down why this game deserves some serious attention. Crimson Desert then is set on the continent of Pywel, a war-torn land filled with political instability, fractured alliances and competing factions. And tone is the first thing that stands out with this game. This world doesn't look glossy, it doesn't look romanticised, it looks weathered. There's weight to the environments, there's mud, stone, iron, wind-swept plains, struggling settlements. It feels grounded, almost oppressive at times, which works perfectly for a story built around loss and rebuilding. Open worlds, of course, live or die on immersion. If Pywel feels authentic, not just large, but also believable, that alone could carry this game a very long way. So for the central protagonist in this story, we play as Kliff, a mercenary leader whose faction, the Greymanes, have been shattered after an attack from a rival group known as the Black Bears. That premise immediately gives structure to the experience. You're not rising from nothing, you're rebuilding from failure, and you're carrying some responsibility. And that leadership angle is what makes this interesting. If the game truly leans into that concept, not just narratively but also mechanically, it could separate itself from a lot of traditional RPGs. Rebuilding a faction, reuniting scattered allies, managing resources and making strategic decisions. That's more than just a simple revenge plot here, that's pressure. From a gameplay perspective then, Crimson Desert looks aggressive. The combat isn't slow or floaty, it appears combo driven, physically animated, grapple heavy and reactive. We've seen melee chains, environmental interaction, magic integration and large scale boss encounters. And the boss fights especially look cinematic, not just in scale but in movement and mechanics. But here's the key question, will it feel responsive enough? Because in modern action RPGs, responsiveness becomes everything. Hit feedback, animation blending, enemy stagger systems and AI behaviour under pressure. If those fundamentals are tight, then the combat could be one of the strongest pillars of the game. If they're not though, it won't matter how spectacular it looks. Crimson Desert is promising a seamless open world with horse traversal, hidden secrets, environmental puzzles, resource gathering, crafting systems, base management and potential multi-character control. That's an enormous scope. The opportunity here is systemic depth, where everything feeds into everything else. Can you imagine if gathering resources directly impacts your faction strength? Base upgrades unlock strategic advantages, character control shifts allow different tactical perspectives, exploration meaningfully alters narrative outcomes. That's more than just simple design, that's cohesive. The risk, of course, is feature bloat. Open worlds can easily collapse into just checklist gameplay. The difference between immersive and exhausting or choresome often comes down to the restraint. What stands out most though about Crimson Desert is the confidence. Large battle sequences, massive environmental set pieces, dramatic boss encounters, wide uninterrupted landscapes. It doesn't look or feel small, and scale can be powerful but only if it's supported by meaningful systems underneath. Spectacle without substance fades quickly, but spectacle layered over strong mechanics, well, that's when a world becomes memorable. One thing that often separates good open world games from great ones is how they handle the small details. Not just the big battles or the cinematic moments, but the quiet interactions in between. How NPCs react to the world around them, how towns feel when you arrive after a long journey, how weather, sound design and environmental movement work together to create the atmosphere. From what we've seen so far though, Crimson Desert appears to be leaning heavily into that kind of environmental storytelling. And if those smaller moments land, if exploration genuinely feels rewarding rather than procedural, then Pywel could become the kind of world players actually want to spend time in, not just pass through. So if Crimson Desert does succeed, then it won't be because it has the biggest map or the flashiest trailers or the most mechanics in a game. It will succeed if it delivers on those three things we've mentioned: cohesive systems, weighty combat, and a compelling leadership arc. The rebuilding of the Greymanes isn't just narrative flavour, it should be mechanically reinforced at every level. When story and gameplay align, immersion becomes natural, and that's the sweet spot. Ambition is exciting, but it's also dangerous. Because this game combines open world exploration, cinematic storytelling, action-heavy combat, strategic-based management and multi-character mechanics, that's one massive development load, and the biggest concern for me here isn't the concept, it's the polish. If performance struggles, or if systems feel disconnected, if the player combat lacks refinement, then we will notice this immediately. March 19th is the release target, and that gives runway, but expectations are of course already building now. Crimson Desert then isn't just another RPG announcement, it's one of the few single player titles that are attempting to combine narrative leadership, action intensity, systemic depth, and large-scale world immersion. That combination is rare, and if it lands successfully, this could quietly become one of the defining RPG experiences of 2026, not because it shouts the loudest though, because it commits fully to its vision. Right now though, this is cautious optimism. The potential is clear, the ambition is obvious, and the scale is impressive, but execution will be everything. If Pearl Abyss delivers on responsiveness, cohesion, and narrative weight, then Crimson Desert could be one of the standout RPGs of the year. If not, it risks becoming another example of ambition stretching too far. Either way, it's a game worth watching closely, so I'm curious, what's your biggest expectation for Crimson Desert? Is it the combat, the open world immersion, the faction rebuilding system, or are you waiting to see whether it actually sticks the landing? Let me know in the comments below because I read and reply to everything. And if you're interested in grounded, in-depth breakdowns of games like this, not just surface level hype, but real analysis as we move towards the launch, then make sure you're subscribed, because as new details drop, we're going to dissect them here. Pywel looks ready for conflict. Now we'll wait to see if it delivers.